So we're going to solve word problems because we learn all of this so we can solve word problems, right? So the profit of a chocolate bar can be modeled by the equation P equals negative 0.3 n minus 7 squared plus 10.8, where P is the profit in thousands of dollars and n is the number of chocolates sold in thousands. What is the coordinates of the vertex? Explain what it represents. So what's the first thing you want to ask yourself here when looking at your equation? What form is it in? That's correct. So what form is this equation in? Yeah? Vertex form. That's right. And because this is in vertex form, what can I find from the vertex form? The vertex. The question is asking you, what is the coordinate of the vertex? So it's as simple as just formation from your vertex form. Okay? What is your vertex here? What's your vertex? It's 7 and 10.8. Guys, please remember anything inside the bracket is going to change its value. Okay? If it's going to change its sign. So
is that just in vertex?
Vertex or in the factored form. Right? Remember, anything in bracket, just put it in your head. If it's in bracket, it's going to change its sign. So in this case, let's just sketch it quickly here, okay? P is your y-axis, N is your x-axis, right? So P is your profit, and it goes on the y-axis, and N is the number of chocolate bar, and it goes on the x-axis, okay? Now, my vertex is at what? 7 and 10.8, which is right, 7, 10.8, that's where my vertex is, right? What does it represent? Okay, the A value is negative, that's right, but what does that vertex represent? The maximum profit. Maximum profit. And what's the maximum profit? 10.8 thousand, which is 10,800. Right? Because remember, it says here in thousands. Right? So the maximum profit is $10,800. And when do I reach the maximum profit? 7,000 chocolate bar. Right? Because look here. The profit is in thousands. The number of chocolates sold in thousands. Okay? So that means I have to sell 7,000 chocolate bar to reach a maximum profit of $10,800. Okay? So 7,000 chocolate bars need to be sold to get a maximum profit of $10,800. What's the y-intercept?
Y-intercept would be 10.8.
Nope.
Oh, y-intercept.
What would be your y-intercept? How can I find the y-intercept? 2. That's right. So standard form is the form that gives you the y-intercept. You guys remember that? We talked about the 3 different forms, and we said each form is specialized for something. And standard form is the one that gives you the y-intercept. So one way to do this is to actually convert to the standard form. How can I convert from vertex to standard? How can I convert from vertex to standard?
Expand.
Expand, yes. Okay, so to expand this, I have to write this twice. Right? That's why I have n minus n squared. It's n minus 7 times n minus 7. Okay. What's the first step? Boil. So n times n is n squared. N times negative 7 is negative 7n. Negative 7 times n is negative 7n. Negative 7 times negative 7 is plus 49 plus 10.8. I can distribute the negative 0.3 in. So that's going to give me negative 0.3n squared plus, because negative times negative is positive, 2.1n plus 2.1n, and then minus 14.7 plus 10.8. So I distributed the negative 0.3 in. And now I can collect like terms. 2.1n and 2.1n, they add up to 4.2n. And then that's going to be negative 3.9. So is it now in standard form? Yes. So can you tell me from that form, what is the y-intercept?
Let it be 3.9.
Negative 3.9 or negative $3,900, right? Because it's in thousands. So the y-intercept is negative 3.9. Okay, so it's this. Now, what does it represent? How many chocolate bars do they sell at the y-intercept? How many chocolate bars would they sell at the y-intercept? So if I look at this right here, okay, at 0, right? Because you have 0 chocolate bar at the y-intercept. Anytime you're looking for a y-intercept, the x value is 0, right? So you have sold 0 chocolate bar. And then your profit is negative 3.9. What does that mean? Are you making money?
No.
No, that's your cost, right? You're losing $3,900 when you sell 0 chocolate bar, because that's your cost. Now, as you sell chocolate bar, your profit is going to increase until it reaches a maximum. You reach a maximum, then it's going to start decreasing again. Because what happens is, most of the time when you reach a certain productivity, you might have to hire more people. You might have to buy another machine. You might have to do, like, open another store. So that costs money. That's why your profit starts decreasing. Okay? So the y-intercept is negative 3.9, which represents the profit is a loss. It's a loss because it's negative of $3,900, okay? And that represents your initial cost. So, what are your zeros? Can I find them from the standard form? Can I find them from the vertex form?
No.
What form do they have? Does it have to be in for me to find the zeros?
Factor.
Factored form. Which means I have to factor, right? We learned that we can factor from standard. My standard form. And I'm going to factor. What's the first step in factoring? Find your greatest common factor. What would be my GCF for this? I'm going to teach you a hint. If I give you something like this, okay, you're almost guaranteed, it's a word problem and I'm asking you to factor, you're guaranteed that your A value is going to be factored out. Okay, so, and we can try it. If I divide 4.2 by 0.3, it's going to give me a whole number. It's going to give me 14. And if I divide 3.9 by 0.3, it's going to give me 13. So, almost all the time in word problems, okay, almost all the time your A value is your greatest common factor. Okay, so if I divide by negative 0.3, that's going to give me 1n squared. If I divide by negative 0.3, that's going to give me negative 14n. And if I divide by negative 0.3, it's going to give me plus 13. So I took my greatest common factor out. What's my next step in factor? Then I'm going backward. Huh? Okay. How can I factor the leftovers? Huh? Sum and product. Sum and product. Okay, so I'm looking for two numbers that multiply. Multiply to 13. Add to what? Add to? Negative 14. So what multiplies to 13 and adds negative 14? Number one, look at this. Okay, let me just bring this over. B is negative, C is positive. B is negative, C is positive. That means both of them have to be negative. Okay, so what did you say, Aiden? Negative 1 and negative 13. Do they add to negative 14? Yeah. Your only multiple for 13 actually is 1 and 13. It's a prime number. So that means I'm going to get negative 0.3 and minus 1 and minus 13. Is it now factored? Fully factored? Yes. What are my zeros? 1 and 13. Because remember, you take each factor and you equal it to 0. So n equals 1. You take the second factor, you equal to 0. N equals 13. Okay? So that means your two zeros are going to be 1,000 chocolate bar and 13,000 chocolate bar. Right? So let's put all of this together here. I know that my maximum is going to be at my maximum or my vertex, sorry, is going to be at 7,000 and 10.8. Okay? that my initial or my y-intercept is going to be at negative 3.9. And at 1,000 and 13,000, I'm going to break even, or I'm going to make zero profit. Make sense? So that means if I'm looking at the zeros, what do the zeros represent in this case? The profit of, how much profit am I making if I sell 1,000 chocolate bars?
13,000. Wait.
Zero profit, right? I'm making zero money. How much money am I going to make when I sell 13,000 chocolate bar? Zero. Remember, this is your profit, and this is the number of chocolate bar. Right? The point here is 1, 0. The point here is 13, 0. Right? So that means you're making the profit, the y value is 0. So your profit is 0. So that means you're breaking even. That's what we call the break-even point. Okay? I'm making exactly the same amount as I'm spending. So my profit is 0. You guys need to be able to read the graphs. You need to be able to understand what these points represent. If you don't know what they represent, it's going to make no sense. So, when you read the question, ask yourself, what form do I have to put it in? Do I need it in vertex form? Do I need it to be in standard form? Or do I need it to be in factored form? Because each form is going to give you information, specific information. You need to be able to go between forms. Okay? The only form we don't know how to get to is the vertex form. So most of the time, the vertex form will be given to you if I'm looking for the maximum. Okay? I won't ask you to go from standard to vertex. It will never happen. Okay? Because you guys don't know how to do that. Here are some key points. So when you're trying to understand problems, make sure that draw sketches to help you visualize the situation. You saw me what I did, right? I drew a sketch. Now always look at your A value so you know exactly if it's going to open up or open down, okay? Because that's going to help you visualize even further. Your graph at the beginning is not going to be correct, and it's okay to make changes as you know more information. When it's asking me for my initial point, what does that mean? So where am I starting though? At what's 0? Yeah. What would be 0 though? The x value would be 0. Okay? So always when it's asking you for initial, that means it's asking you for the y-intercept. Initial means y-intercept, which means my x value is 0. What equation or what form do I need it to be in order to find the y-intercept, to find the initial value? The expanded, the standard form, the standard. Okay? Now, you guys also, you can plug in 0 for x. If you want to check your work, you can plug in 0 for x and make sure that it works. Break-even point, when it's asking me for break-even points, what am I looking for? The zeros or the x-intercept, right? And what form do I want it to be in? So make sure it's in factored form. If I'm looking for my maximum or minimum profit or maximum height, maximum distance, what am I looking for? The k value, which is the optimal y value of the vertex, right? So I'm looking for the optimal value, okay, which is the y value of the vertex. So what form do I want it to be in? Vertex form. The point at which the maximum or minimum occur. Maximum or minimum, what do we call that point? Which is, what do we call that point? Vertex. So you're looking again. So if it's asking just for the maximum profit, you're looking for the y value, specifically for the y value. If it's asking you for the point where the maximum occur, that's your vertex point. That's the whole point h and k. Okay? So you have to pick what the question is asking you for. You have to be very careful to what the question is asking you. Okay? So what I want you to do right now is I want you to take this question, all right, look, find someone to work with, and then answer the questions that the example number 2, and then I'll take it up with you guys in class. But I want you to finish this first.